Hello, I hope you are ready for your Afrikaans lessons, and we are still looking at past tense. The previous lesson we looked at time words, days, and the main verb in past tense. So please review that. If you're a bit unsure, just review that. But I am repeating some of the main verb today. So today's lesson is the main verb in past tense, and that gets a het and a geverb. One of the other main verbs is het, that gets a gehad at the end. And the other main verb is was, that gets a gewees at the end. Let's look at all the verbs again. Okay, so we're still just focusing on the right hand side here, all the main verbs. Last week we did eet, slaap, sing, and the exception to the verbs that don't get the ge if they've got that prefix. That's the first rule. The second one that we're looking at is the verbs gehad and was. And they are the past tense of het and is. And I just want you to remember this. We have het, which means have here. And is, that means is something, okay? And they have a past tense, gehad and was. These are the only verbs that conjugate, that change in the sentence, in a past tense sentence. And they have rules. If you have a het, you have a gehad. If you have a is, you have a was and a gewees. Okay, that won't make sense yet, but let's do it now. Going to make myself smaller and move myself around. Okay, so we have our stompie as always. The focus is on the verb, the first verb that you get, and then the verb to at the end. We are still just looking at subject, verb, time, and object. Here, the verb can be two things, the het or the was. Now, because it's past tense, you would know, if you see the het and the geverb, it's past tense. Now you're just adding was and gewees. Let me show you. Okay, this is the overview of the main verbs. This is all the rules for the main verbs, and you know the one exception with the main verb here is that it doesn't get the ge if it's one of those verbs with the prefix. That is the only side rule that you need to remember. But these are the main rules for the main verbs for past tense. When we do the helping verbs, it will come automatically because these are the foundation rules. So let's just look at the top one. You get your subject, your het, with your geverb, except those ones with the prefix. Okay. If you have the subject as het, the past tense of have, I have something, you have a gehad at the end. I had this. If you have a is in your present tense, it's was in the past tense with a gewees at the end. Don't worry about memorizing this. I will go through them one by one. Let's look at, this is the present tense of the main verb. Ek eet elke dag a pizza. So I think you should know the translation. I eat every day a pizza. This sentence in past tense, second word is het. That eet goes to the last part of the sentence, geëet. Just to remind you of the E with the diaresis at the top, it chops it just before the diaresis to change the syllables into ge and eet. This is a revision of the main verb. What are the rules for past tense? You have het as the first verb and your geverb at the end. Those are your rules in general. Even if you're looking at other verbs or helping verbs, you have het as your second verb and then the geverb at the end. Hy het Vrydag jou muur geverf. So he painted your house on Friday, or your wall on Friday. Hierdie man het vroeg vanoggend sy hond geroep. Het as the second word, and geroep, your geverb at the end. Now just a moment into the object pronouns. Jou mier, sy hond. Okay, present tense for het. Remember, het in present tense is I have. Ons het 'n blou huis. We have a blue house. So now, do you see this het? Don't think it means past tense unless you see the geverb. Do you see a geverb in this first row? No. So it just means have. Het here means have. Ek het verlede jaar 'n blou huis gehad. Okay, that's the geverb of het. So this het, let me use this. This het moves to the end. Oh, lovely line there. And that het changes to a gehad. Okay, so it's still the same principle. You're putting the het as the second sentence, the second word, and you're changing it to a gehet, but it conjugates. One of the only ones that conjugate goes to gehad. Let's look at more sentences. Die vrou het verlede jaar 'n klein televisie gehad. She had a small TV last year. So if you just say, sy het 'n klein televisie, she has a small television. Now this het, changing it to past tense, het goes to the second place, and the het changes to gehad at the end. Sy het, die vrou het, verlede jaar 'n klein televisie gehad. Let's look at ons. Ons het laas week die groen sleutels gehad. We had the green keys, whatever the context may be. But het, past tense, second word, goes to the end, verb 2, gehad. Let's look at the last example, and then you have the basics of past tense. Now, was is one of the exceptions, but it's of the few exceptions. Afrikaans doesn't have so many exceptions like other languages. Okay, this is the present tense. Ons is dokters. We are doctors. Past tense. Ons was in die verlede, in the past, dokters gewees. That was the past. So this is the only exception where het is not the second word, it's was, but you still have your gewees at the end to show you this is a past tense sentence. Intuitively, it's like English. We were in the past doctors. Okay, so just look at it for a mo. The is and the was is exactly like English. So it's an exception to in Afrikaans, but it's not a difficult one. So if you have ons is dokters, the past is ons was in die verlede dokters gewees. And remember, you don't need this in die verlede. Ons was dokters gewees would be good enough to show this is past tense, because you have the geverb and the was, which you know means were or was. Let's look at examples. Okay, hierdie mense, these people, was Sondag baie besig gewees. Hierdie mense was, they were, Sondag baie besig gewees. So you have the was and gewees. Next one. Hulle was die vorige keer die wenners gewees. They were the winners the previous time. Okay, so I'll give you an overview again, but just looking at was, if you say sy was mooi gewees, she was pretty. Okay, if you have the was, you have a gewees at the end, the geverb at the end to show that it's past tense. Okay, and then just the overview that I had before. The first one is of the main verbs. You have, let me use this. subject. So this is the main verbs. Het, time object, geverb. All of them have a geverb. Do you see that? All of them have. Now with the main verbs, we're still, if you remember the main verb page, we're still just busy with the main verbs, and we have the gehad and the gewees for the past tense of het and is. Okay, so let's look. Main verb het plus geverb, and the only exception here, do you remember? It's those verbs that have the prefix und, haar, ge, und haar, ge, ver, those prefixes. Okay, your next rule, if you have het as in have as your verb in present tense, ek het 'n kar, I have a car, you have gehad as your past tense word at the end of the sentence. And then if you have ek is 'n dokter, then you have ek was 'n dokter gewees. All of them have a ge verb, and this is the main verb rules. You can print this, you can use this, but in the assessment that I'm going to do for you, just to click on the correct order or the correct past tense, you'll be able to recognize or just practice this. And you should write it as well. Make a sentence in present tense, and that's what I'll do in the next lessons. I'll give you the present and show you the past. Present and past, and then we can practice it together. Okay, deep breath. So I know it's a lot of, it seems like a lot, but it's actually so simple that the het is there as the second word, except if it's the was, and your ge verb at the end showing the past. And if you see it, you can't unsee it anymore. You have seen it forever. Okay, lekker dag. Bye bye.